All right, everybody. So, welcome. This is Anna, and welcome to lesson one. Pretty much just, I'm going to be doing like a small short series of little drawing lessons. And this is going to be lesson number one, which is pretty much talking about basic shapes. Now, before we start doing that, I do want to go ahead and just kind of highlight the two different QR codes you're seeing up there. Dr. Phones, good friend of mine. They are the reason why my laptop and some of my equipment is back up. I highly recommend them. They're really good people. And I'll be using some of this equipment later on as we continue to proceed through these lessons. And Elote Creek Studio is pretty much where I have some of my artwork there. So you guys want to check them out? There's the QR code right there. Knock yourself out. All right, so before we start going forward, let's go ahead and talk about the importance of visual illustration. Illustration, you can communicate across barriers of like different language barriers by simply having good visuals. A really good old example is, I'm not sure if you guys remember the heavy metal magazines back in the day. Maybe I'm just that old. Back in my day, they used to have these little comic strips that they will have no language included on them. There'll be just visuals of different events, and it will pretty much transcend different languages. So that is a good example of visual communication. Other way that we use visual communication, it could be pretty much graphic design. Graphic design uses it a lot. You have some textual stuff, but then you have some visuals, and some the visuals have to be strong enough to be able to communicate the whole message behind it. Um, Now let's go ahead and go a little bit more old school than that and back in the day. So the earlier examples of visual communication I'm thinking of is hieroglyphics and cave paintings. So remember, back in the day, caveman day, ooh ooh ooh. The only thing people didn't have the concept of a language did not exist, but these folks were constantly on their toes. They were not the top of the food chain. They were being hunted. So if you actually go and you look at some cave paintings, and I was trying to bring some up, but it's kind of hard to find some that are not copywritten. But if you go ahead and you Google cave paintings, when you actually really look at them, you see that some of them are actually trying to either depict a moment in time, or they're trying to kind of capture like a story so that way they can use it as a way to pass their knowledge down to their people or to the next generation. So if you get a chance, look at that. So that is an earlier form of language. Now, later on, we started using shapes in order to represent different phonics. And the early representation that I can think of that is hieroglyphics. If you, again, just go ahead and Google to type in Egyptian hieroglyphics, and you see they have like the eye and the bird and like the different shapes. I do not have all the memorized at the top of my head, so please don't ask me to fill them out. However, that is the earliest form of written language that I can think of the top of my head. And if you actually look at your current alphabet, you will see that each one of them, like the letter A, who was the first person that went A? And they thought about like something that looked like a mountain peak with a little dash going across. Ah, and it's the same thing English and Spanish. A, B, B. So it's the little line with the two bellies. Okay, so someone out there took the time to develop this. I'm pretty sure if I Google it, I can find who developed the original language, but I don't feel like doing that right now. But visual communication is really important, and is we have used it to communicate with each other for centuries at this point. Now, with that, let's go ahead and lead into the actual first lesson, which is basic shapes, because everything starts with the basic shapes. I'm going to turn off the camera, and I'm going to simply focus on my desk back here. So let's go ahead and turn off that camera. Oh, not that camera. My chunky camera, because I don't like to see myself. Okay, so let's go ahead and head over here. So for this, you will see right here, all you need for supplies is paper and pencil. Doesn't matter what kind of pencil you got, something simple. I personally tend to use mechanical pencils. Or if I have it available to me, like regular pencils. However, this is what I got for right now. All right. No matter what you are drawing, everything's going to be broken down between circles, squares, and triangles. Maybe I could just draw this a little bit bigger. Actually, I could just push the camera down. There we go. So, circle, squares, and triangles. So this is pretty much the 2D version. Now, if you want to go ahead and go into more 3D, then you're going to have spheres, cubes, and cones. All right. Man, look at that fine drawing. Woohoo! All right. And you literally can go around your room and you could just pause for a moment, take a look at anything, and you could literally see these three shapes across the board. Obviously, you can this but while these are like the building blocks, these are the base root. Obviously, you're gonna have more complicated ones. So you're gonna have cylinders, and then you're going to have rectangles, which are a little longer. So you start getting more complicated as you go. Kind of like when you're looking at the colors, you got red, blue, and yellow. They're pretty much your root primary colors. And then from there, it kind of branches off to other ones. But for the most part, these will always be your base shapes. So let's go ahead and start with something simple. So I'm going to back out a little bit. So here, I have a can. Okay, so I'm going to start with that. I'm going to push this off to the side because I don't need this right now. And unfortunately, I don't want to take off the label because, I don't want to know what, I don't want to forget what this is later on. Okay, so we have a basic can. Now, when you look at a can, there's a couple things that you are thinking about here. First of all, it is from the top view, it is composed of a circle. So I'm going to do top and bottom. But when you look at it directly, so see, there's the top right there, a circle right here. But if you look at it directly, it kind of has more of a square shape to it. Okay, so this is the top bottom, but we look at it from the side, and it's kind of like a long rectangle. Again, base shapes. Circle, square. Okay, base shapes. Okay, so this is pretty much what we're working with. So if we want to start to draw this can, okay, so we want to go ahead and we want to break this down. I wish I had a better photo of this, but the best way that I can think of it is go ahead and draw an elongated rectangle. This is just me doing a quick cheat. Actually, I'm going to draw this a little bigger so you guys can see what I'm doing. And let me know if this doesn't make any sense. I guess I'm kind of skipping a couple steps, so that's okay. Okay, so I'm going to start with the rectangle. Now, obviously right here, when we look at the can directly, it's just mostly the square shape, but when we tilt it, we see a lip right here. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more later. So for right now, I'm going to use a subversion of the circle shape, which is going to be an oval. So this is prime, this is sub. Okay, so I'm going to go right here from edge to edge, and I'm going to draw an oval. Okay, so from here to here, I'm going to draw an oval, and I'm going to repeat that again right here at the bottom. Okay, so if we actually look at this without doing too many details, what we're looking at is the actual mass. We're looking at this in a volume. So right here we have the curvature of the can. So this is the outside right here. And then right here's the top. So we're telling our viewers right now, let's say if I completely erase this right here, that this is, we're kind of looking at it from the top view. And then we can see the top of the can right here. And I'll go into like what's called the horizon line here in a second or a little bit later. And right here, we can see this front lip right here. And then from back here, we can see the back of the lip here. And then all I want to do is delete, or not delete, erase that center line. And then right here, if we can see the top of the can, we won't be able to see the bottom of the can. So technically right here, all we have to do is go down here. And we erase that. And now we have our cylinder, aka our can. Now there is a more complicated way to do this. However, right now I just want to talk about how you can find basic shapes. So in this case, here's the oval, here's the rectangle, and this makes the main body of this can. All right. So there's that. Let me grab another sheet of paper. All right. So the next thing I want to grab is a a box. God, I hope it doesn't get me in trouble with copyrights. Anyway, all right. So this is just a basic from the pantry, just a basic box of stuff, and it's just like a cooking box of, just food. It's just basic food around the house. Okay, so if I look at this box, it's technically a square. It's yet another rectangle. Okay, from the straight view, literally the straight view, this is a rectangle. All right. However, when we move it over, we can see there is a plane here. There's a plane here. It's awfully thin. Okay. We can see it's thin. Okay. So technically, so this will be front view. We're looking at the top view. Top view is another rectangle. Side view is another lean rectangle. So an offshoot, so you have a square. So this is the prime shape. And then you have the sub shape, which in this case would be a rectangle. Prime and sub. Okay, so we have front of package, sides of package, and then top and bottom of package. Sorry if my my, my my chicken scratch. Okay. So now that I understand that this is made out of 3 different shapes and 3 different sizes of rectangles, hopefully you guys can see that, I can now go ahead and I can try to draw this. And trust me, this is just me, again, just showing you how to break things down. Obviously, this is a little more complicated than this for right now, but right now I'm just trying to show you that everything's composed of basic shapes. Now, there's perspective and a bunch of stuff that goes into it, but again, this is lesson 1. So by simply combining this right here, this long elongated rectangle, this is a shorter rectangle for the top and bottom. Now if we can see the top, I won't be able to see the bottom. And then right here is the side. This helps me make a basic box. And of course, I can go ahead and draw whatever I want on it. I don't know, biscuits, cookies. That's how you know how to do a basic shape. And then we can get into some shading and stuff, blah, blah, blah. And here you have a basic food item or basic box. Okay, so there's that. All right, sorry, I'm normally used to doing lessons, but copyright is a big thing, so I'm hoping I'm not getting in trouble for using some of these examples. But so these food items are delicious. All right, here's one that I don't think there's any copyrights in it. Let's go to an apple. Okay, so we already done we've done a rectangle, we did a cylinder, we did a rectangle. Now let's do something that's kind of circular. And as you can see, this is more of an organic shape. So things that tend to be more man-made, and I'm gonna borrow my janky scissors right here. This is my they've been through some stuff. Anything that tends to be man-made, on average, tend to have more defined, very clean edges, very very crisp. Versus something that is organic, they don't tend to have very crispy, and they tend to be a little bit looser. So they tend to be harder to draw. However, if I take a look at this apple, it's technically a fat oval. We can start with that. So it's circular. Now right here I can go ahead and take a look at some of the shapes. So obviously it's a little bit more elongated. Okay, now right here at the top I see there is, because remember this has to dip in, so this pretty much kind of cones inwards, but we're not gonna worry about that yet. But pretty much just go ahead, it dips in at the top. And I'm just doing this real quick, and there's a mass there. Okay, and then right here at the bottom half is not perfect, but right now what I'm doing is I'm just looking at the basic shapes, and then I'm also breaking down. Okay, right here there is a inside tunnel that kind of goes in, that's where the stem comes out of, so it kind of curves inward. And then this right here this line gives me the indication of a lip right here, which would be like this corner from this volume overlapping the rest of the volume here, which we'll talk later. And then right here at the bottom we can see that this is not a flat surface. On average, apples, tend to have, depending on the type of apple. So this is some of the man-made hybrids. Normally, basic apples will have one, two, three, four. However, some of these hybrids, like this one, only has like one, two, and in-ish kind of bottom. So it's a little bit more boutique. But it will have a non-straight bottom. And once you practice this enough, you literally can sit there and you see a lot of cartoons where they draw an apple, they'll draw a circle and then they'll draw this. I know it looks more like an orange, or they'll start with a circle and it'll look like a tooth. But notice I started with a circle. I'm just going to give it a little sheen like back in the day. Okay, so we got a circle. Okay, so there's that. All right, so the last shape that I want to talk about is triangles. Okay, so it's not very hard to find. If you actually start looking around, you're gonna start seeing some of these shapes wherever you go. I just grabbed this one because it's the only one I could find right immediately right off the bat, because most items, especially now that people are designing for people in mind. For example, you look at these scissors, they're triangular, but if you look at the shape, look what I did immediately. The second I grabbed it, my finger automatically knew where to go just so I can keep it steady. So there is a lot of human locomotion involved in some of these designs. Like I said, this one unfortunately has been through a mishap, so it doesn't look as crispy as it used to. It used to look a lot nicer, but I kind of like this unnatural look that I got going on here. But anyway, but I wanted to show you the base thing. If I were to draw these pairs of scissors right off the bat, notice this. If I were to go right here, the core shape is a triangle. Okay, so there's the triangle part right there. If I wanted to go even further and break this down, I'm looking at this and it's like, okay, so from here to here, this is the handle. From here to here, this is the base. Okay, and if I'm looking at this base, technically, it kind of has this almost like a rectangle. And again, there is no right or wrong to how to approach this. It's just me breaking it down. There's a circle here because this is the divot or the notch that is keeping it from that's keeping it together. So when I open and close it, this is what maintains, sustains, makes it stable. And then right here we go towards the back. We have circle 1, circle 2, and notice that they're not touching each other because there's some gapping right here. Okay, and then from here we have, if you look in here, circle 1, circle 2. And one of the things that I like to do when I'm drawing, I like to kind of do very fast speed sketches, where I'm looking at an item and I'm like, okay, cool, I want to draw that real quick, and I pretty much go right through. I start memorizing the basic shapes, and that's how I'm able to draw something so fast, because I've already practiced it. I have an idea where the core shapes are, and then I can go from there. And if I want to open it, so right now notice that I've not opened the scissors, but I already started memorizing some of the parts on this. Because I'm already studying. So this is what is known as a study of an item. So I am aware that because this is pivot at this point, when it opens, this is going to open back here. So I tend to do this a lot, especially if I'm trying to learn how to draw something new. I just like to kind of just look at the item and then kind of rough it out real quick and just get the core shape, so that way I can draw it faster and faster. Okay, so here's this pair of scissors. You can see right here, I pinpointed out, this is more of an oval, circular. Okay, right here, even though right here we have an opening, this is kind of an oval here. Okay, this still continues to triangular shape. However, we all know there's a divot there, but we're not going into the details yet. And then this takes you down here. So let's go ahead and quickly change mediums real quick. I don't think I have any color pencils on me. Unfortunately, I don't. But I do have a pen. So let's go ahead and go with that. If I mess it up, I mess it up. Okay, so let's take a look at what we got right here. Okay. I've been drawing for a while, so I don't get freaked out if I mess something up. So right here we're looking at there is a curvature right around here. So if I'm looking at the circle, somewhere in the middle of this, it divots down. Okay? And then if I go right here, if I align this, okay, this gives me the upper part of that. Look at that. Oh, I just got an email. Sorry about that. Let's go ahead and repeat that on the other side. Right here, and I'm using, these are my pre-made guides. Now, I'm not worried about perfection right now because I'm just doing a quick study of this pair of scissors. Let me go ahead and turn that off so I don't deafen myself anymore. Give me a second. Let me yep. There we go. Close that out. There we go. Sweet. Okay. So go right there, we continue the scissors. Okay, and then from here it continues to, and right here I'm looking at the comparison. And said, I'm not too worried if I'm messing this up right now because I'm not going for perfection. I am just looking at observation. Here's circle 1. Here's circle 2. Then right here, we got that division here. And notice how there's another circle in here too, but somewhere up here. And this is allows you to, like, I think it was to open bottles. I think if I remember correctly, that's what that's for. Okay. So far, not too shabby, not beautiful, but not hideous. Okay, now right here we're looking at what is happening here. So we have a curvature. So now notice how this doesn't start directly in this edge right here. It kind of divots in a little bit and it curves up. And you always want to start with basic shapes because it kind of gives you, think of it like a recipe. It gives you like the base, and then once you have an idea of what you're making, then you can go in and start, refining it, adding details and stuff like that. It's like that with almost any medium. I recently got into cooking. I've had this really big fear of cooking. I can cook for myself, but now that I'm engaged, trying to be cook more at home, and I'm constantly worried that my food is going to be awful. So I start with like a base recipe, and then from the base recipe, I continue to refine it and modify it so I make something tasty. So, and it's the same thing with drawing. Start with the base and start, once you get the core concept, and start building it up. So right here you could see, again, it's perfect? Absolutely not, but you're trying to get the concept. Okay, so let's go right here. Again, I'm not going for perfection, highlights, shadows. This is just for me to show you how to start with a complex object, breaking it down into shapes, and then building it up from there. All right. Is this lesson perfect? Absolutely not. I just kind of want to start sharing some of my knowledge. I'm probably going to try to do this lesson again later on, once I start getting more feedback from folks. Everybody learns different. I am a hands-on person. I've always been a hands-on person. And I just like to, obviously my shading is, it's not very pretty right now, but again, I'm not going for perfection. I'm just kind of going for a quick sketch. But I just kind of want to just do a quick lesson. And, if you really want to get better, go ahead and start grabbing items around your house and then start breaking it down. And you saw what I did here with the scissors. I pretty much started with the base root shape. started breaking it down and then looking at some of the compounded shapes in there and then try to replicate it as best as you can. Is it going to be perfect the first time you do it? Absolutely not, but don't give up. Do not give up. Art is just like anything. It's a skill that can be honed, that can be taught, but it's going to take time and you have to be patient with yourself. And it's got to be something that you really, 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 really love. Okay. So, there's that. Okay. So, that's the so hopefully, like I said, that's not too intimidating. So, let's go ahead and try one more time. Okay. So, I want to grab something a little more complicated. Let me grab one more sheet of paper here. Okay, and the one thing that I wanted to grab, so here is my water bottle. Okay, so you can see it's mostly a cylinder, but the part that I want to focus is on this up here. So let me go ahead and grab that. Let's put it away. Okay, so let's take a look at what we got right here. So we have a cylindrical shape, or kind of like a flat puck, but then you have kind of the squarish shape in the back, and then you have like a little sippy cup right here sticking out. Okay, so let's go ahead and start breaking this down little by little. So I'm going to start with the pencil. I always start with the pencil. Okay, so I'm going to start right here. All right, and right now, keep in mind, I am not even doing perspective or any of that stuff. I'm just showing you guys how to break things down. I just want you guys to start thinking in mass and volume. Okay, so this kind of gives me this base here right here. Now, I'm not going to draw it from the inside because there's a lot of complicated compounds in there, but I want to mostly focus on the outside volume right here. If I see here, if I'm looking at my shape here, I'm going to divide this towards the center. My apologies. I'm going to divide this towards the center, and I notice that there is a kind of like an indentation in here. It dips down. And there's some stuff here. There is kind of like a rectangle here. It dips down. So this is some of the stuff you learn as you go through. So there is that rectangle right there. There's also kind of like a circular shape here. This is pretty much what it gives it the what's that called? It allows it to come in. It's pretty much it opens and closes this piece right here. So I'm looking at that, and it's a roundish piece. So I'm going right here, and I'm adding a circle. And again, this is just my brain keeping track of mass and studying this item. I also see right here there's like a hook. That means that when I open it, this is as far as we'll go. So it's kind of like a secure stop right there. So I'm gonna draw another rectangle here. And again, you could do this with almost anything, literally almost anything. Now we look at this piece here. It's not quite a rectangle, and it kind of does kind of taper, like right here, it kind of closes up a little bit, but it's technically kind of like a rectangle. Now I can start getting into exact measurements where you pretty much go to a pencil and you measure it from here to here. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. So old school days, this is old school. Back in the day, you'll have a model sitting around. Story time, kids. Okay, let's say here's a model. They're just sitting right here. And here you are trying to draw them looking all confused. Okay, you have an easel and they'll be like, I don't know, like 3 yards from you, right? So the way that you used to be able to measure up is that you would stick out your arm, which I cannot do because I'm on camera right now. You stick out your arm, and then you put in your hand on your pencil right here, and you will use your pencil as a way to measure things out. And that's maybe another lesson for another day. So if I were to use that theory, if I'm looking at my pencil, the distance from here to here is actually just a little longer. So if I go from here to here, move that distance here, and make it a little longer, that should pretty much be, so I gotta shave a little bit at the top. Again, we can talk about that later, how I got that, but right now, like I said, I'm just trying to show you guys how to break down complicated shapes. Alright, so now also let's take a look right here. So about halfway, so here's from here to here. If I'm looking at it from the side, this is pretty much gives you where this starts right here, and it kind of goes like a, I want to say a 45-degree angle, but sure, let's go 45-degree angle. Now here's what I'm noticing as well. if I were to kind of draw a line straight down, this could be divided into three. So I'm going to grab this curvature right here, and I'm going to kind of break it down to 2/3 as best as I can. So this would be 1/3, 2/3, 3/3. 3/3. I know, I could be a big kid at times. Okay, so now that gives me kind of this width right here. And then now I'm going to figure out the height right here. So this doesn't go beyond this line here, because right now I'm looking at it. This is pretty much the edge. So I know this is my limit. So I'm going to do this. And again, if this is too crazy, too complicated, please let me know, because I know my brain can go can go be a little complicated at times. Okay, so that kind of gives me this basic shape. It's perfect? Absolutely not. Now here's the one that this is the part that I'm looking at right now. If I go to the top, you can see that these line up on both sides, so they're pretty much equal on both sides. So I can grab where I started this edge here, and I'm gonna go across. And obviously there's some perspective stuff, but for right now, just bear with me. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw. And I'm going to follow this angle right here. And again, this is another rectangle. Technically, it's a rectangle with like a, I don't know, like a flare bell bottom thing going on here. There we go. There we go. So that kind of gives me that. Again, it's kind of rough. And then I'm just looking at what we got going on here. Flat surface, flat surface, flat surface. So 1, 2, 3. So right now I'm just kind of eyeballing this. I am not doing exact measurements. This is just me studying this item. And then go ahead and do adjustments as you see fit. And is it going to look flattering the first time? Absolutely not. But here's what I got so far. See? It looks like a hockey puck at the bottom. I'm tracking right here. There's a circular mass that pretty much moves within this sunken space here, because the mass needs to have somewhere to go. So you can see they make this so it perfectly fits in there. So there is an indentation here for that functionality. And then right here's where the water comes out. And then right here's the handle. And if you really want to get fancy, right here where you grab it, see, this the one thing I love about product design or like modern design, like engineering, is that when they're thinking of humans, they always got to make sure that it's comfortable for your grip, that you want to hold this water bottle, that if you hold it for a long time period, it won't be annoying. Like it kind of literally curves to your body contour. So right here, let's just go ahead and assume there's that right there. So there is the divot. And I'm just going to eyeball it half and half for now, like I said. All right, so let's go ahead and then add some details to this. And again, I'm risking it. I'm going with a pen. If I mess it up, oh well. I am not that married to this drawing. It's just the basic study. But now that I have the base shapes, I can now go ahead and do some of this detail. Okay, and I'm also keeping track right here. This thing has mass and it's got volume. So right here on this edge, notice I didn't go all the way to the end. I went down to here. And I'm keeping that lip. That lip tells me, as a visual, as a person that lives in this environment, in three-dimensional environment, that this has some thickness. There's some thickness to this plastic. Okay, go right here. And again, it's not going to be perfect. So, you guys want a dirty dirt. It's not perfect, okay? This is just observational training. Okay, so that gives me this handle right here. And this is based on the information that I grabbed from earlier today. Now, right here, this kind of curves. So this curve right here is curved. So you kind of have to imply it a little bit. You don't want to do a hard edge, because if it's a soft edge and you give it like a hard corner, it's going to look like something that it's like this. See, that's a hard edge. That's a hard edge. That's a hard edge. That's a softest edge. And a lot of this, you're going to have, if you get detail, you're going to give it with the lighting. But for this exercise, we're just going to go ahead and we're going to imply that there's an edge there. All right, we're going to do that right there. All right, now I'm keeping track right here. Notice that I didn't continue because I have this mass right here. So when you're looking at an object, you gotta keep in mind the mass and volume. You also gotta keep in mind where are they located in the environment. So if I'm looking at this from your point of view, this mass, since this is in the foreground, is in, so this will be up front. This mass right here will be in the center. You can see right here. So that'll be 2, and this will be in the background. So you got a foreground, midground, background. Okay. So I already drew part of the foreground. Now I'm getting into the midground. If I'm looking at the midground here, all right. So notice that I didn't go all the way down because I'm tracking that this is a solid mass, and this solid mass is blocking the rest of this ball. So I'm going right here. And again, this is what goes through an artist's head as we are doing studies. I think this is what some of us are crazy because we tend to overthink things, and it's not something that we do, out of malice. It's just the way that we're programmed. If you do it when you're doing artwork, you are constantly observing the item. How do they fit in a three-dimensional environment? How do they move? How do the light bounce off of them? So you're constantly tracking a lot of different features on this one item, almost like becoming obsessive with an item, if I may be frank. Okay, right here I'm going to imply there's a lip there and turn out too perfect. That's okay. I'm also going to imply right here there's a curved edge. Now right here there's also a slightly curved edge. And again, if yours doesn't look pretty, it's okay. I have been drawing since I was 5 years old. I am now 43. Okay, so I have a associate's in fine arts. I have a bachelor's in computer animation. I have been doing graphics professionally since 2004. Mostly doing a lot of multimedia, like graphic design, production work. I used to work in the animation studios in my earlier career, but due to live events, I had to kind of stop and I had to go for more commercial stuff to put food on the table, and it happens. That's okay. But I have a lot of experience doing illustration. All right, so right here we got that right there. Look, that's coming along. Cool. Again, the first time you draw it, you're not going for perfection. And I know we see these. It's very easy to be intimidated when you go on, like, cause there's some people that they measure this stuff out that it looks immaculate, like it looks exactly like the object. Like I call them human photocopiers. And if that's your jam, you know what? Good for you. I tend to go for informative general shapes because in the environments that I worked at, I don't have the luxury to be a perfectionist. I got hired to do a product, do it fast, do it quick. It was due yesterday. So I pretty much just pick up the general gist of the object and then I draw it as best as I can. Now, if they want something that's hyper real, obviously I'm going to charge them for that because the more time you invest on something, it's going to cost more. Let's just be honest. Okay. So right here, let's go ahead and take a look at what we got so far. Not so bad. All right. So let's go ahead and erase some of these things. Let me get my eraser. Yep, that's probably the only item I didn't put on the list because I didn't think it was necessary. Nope. Color pencils. Where's my eraser box? Give me a second. Sorry, don't mean to keep coughing on the microphone. Here's my box of Anna's random stuff. Okay. So this is a high polymer eraser. I've always had one of these as far back as I can think of. And I love these because they kind of help you quickly clean out your stuff. Now, I was doing ink, so keep in mind that depending on the type of pen you're doing, if you use an eraser, you might smear it. So please be careful when you're using an eraser. But it's like the cleanest form. You can see, look at that. It's nice and clean. I love it. There we go. And then now I can go ahead and add some of the details. So I'm looking at this. I'm going to pretend my light source is coming from here. Okay, and then we'll get into lighting and stuff later. Like I said, today I just want to show you how you can start with a basic shape and then build up and then use those basic shapes to build complicated object. So right here, If my light source is coming from this direction, this side right here is going to be in the shade. Obviously, we have some bouncing light sources from there because it's a reflective, kind of reflective-ish plastic surface. Is this perfect? Absolutely not. I am not going for perfection. Okay, so we got that right there. That implies to my viewers that this is inside. I'm also going to have a little bit of shadows right here. Maybe this is ugly. God, this is ugly. But that's okay. I'm just indicating that this is internal. This is an internal piece. Okay, and this right here is getting hit with direct light. Like I said, we'll get more into heavy lighting later. Right here, this area right here is also going to be in shadow. Not pretty, but I'm doing this as fast as I can for the sake of the exercise. So we're doing that. Right here, there's a little bit. And I'm going with really basic shading here. I'm not even doing anything crazy. Okay, so we got that. Now this right here is, there's a divot in here, so I'm going to imply that this sunken in by just adding a darker tone. So it gives the illusion that that is darker. And to my friends for inkers, professional inkers, don't judge me. I'm not a professional inker like you are. I have some amazing artist friends. Like, dude, they inspire me. I love looking at their artwork. Like, I just love just enjoying their stuff. Okay, so we have shaded, mid, kind of mid, but okay. Right here we have another shaded because again I'm thinking of the light source coming through, getting hit by light. Now this back here is also going to be slightly in shadow, but I'm not going to go too crazy. Now the difference is when you're shading on a plane, normally you kind of just want to go across to give the illusion that this is a flat surface. And we'll talk about shading later. When you're dealing with a curved surface, you want to curve your shading so it tells your audience that this is a, it just implies that this is a curved area. So right here, I'm just going to do this real quick. Like I said, it ain't going to be pretty. And I don't have the steady hand that I used to. I mostly do digital these days. This pretty much tells folks that this is a curved surface. This is the furthest point away from the light source. As it gets to this side, it's going to be lighter because that's the closest point. Now, if you're a person that you are not very comfortable, every person kind of have their niche, no matter what they do, whether it's in sports or art or music. Some people are really good at drawing mechanical things, so they're terrible at drawing organics. Other people, such as myself, I'm really good at drawing organics, absolutely terrible at drawing technical because I just kind of lose my patience, if that makes any sense. Um, So, yeah, so if you're not good at organics, then practice with organics. And again, always start with basic shapes. If you're not good with things that are like synthetic or just pretty much just man-made, then practice those. So if you want to learn how to draw cars, then practice. There is no shortcuts to drawing better. You just have to practice. So right here, let's just kind of recap. So it is a circular surface, but it's technically a cylinder. We technically had part of a external rectangle. We also had a divot right here. So this is me recapping what I learned from doing this shape. There is a sphere in the center with another rectangle here stopping it. And this is the drinking valve. Nothing too crazy, but this gives me the basic shapes right here that I came up with this. Now, because I know this, I can now, I'm going to switch to my pencil. I can now kind of draw this from every angle that I want because I have taken the time to learn the basic structure of this. And this is the top of a lid. So I'm looking at my water bottle. And again, it's a cylinder. This is the complicated shape you see right here. But again, this is just for simplification's sake. And then if I wanted to use this as the light source, this is my darker point, lighter point. And this right here, the base is silver. I'm looking at my jar. I will grab it, but the lid's right here. If I try to grab it, it will spill. And there you go. All right, so I hope you guys enjoy this quick lesson. If you really want to become better at this, like I said, I will start by just doing that. Just grabbing basic items around your house that you find. And then here's another, see, if we're looking at this, this has a triangular shape, but then it's kind of rectangular depending on which angle you look at it. And then start breaking it down. Just start looking at it and going, it's like, okay, here is a flat surface, circular cylinder with divisions right here. We also have this elongated part, and then start breaking it down. And once you understand how these work, then it's not as hard as you think. You can start quickly drawing these out. And if you work in animation, and I'm talking like 2D animation, you have to do a lot of this, especially if you're a storyboard artist. You can't just sit there and work on a panel all day. That is not going to happen. You'll never finish your production. So you have to be quicker. You have to just kind of get the gist of the item and then go from there. Is this beautiful? Absolutely not. But can you tell what it is? Yes. All right, going back to the pen. And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of messing up. You know, we all start at level 0. If you take the time to learn, I've seen people that did not know how to draw. I used to teach at a couple universities, and they did not know how to draw for beans. And then once they were taking the courses, and they were adamant every day. I had one student that for 2 years he came in, he could not draw anything. When he graduated, he was a pretty good, decent artist. Like, I was like, wow, impressed. Like, he was drawing portraits, but every day, every freaking day. When I tell you every freaking day, this kid was drawing. He was drawing every freaking day. He probably outdid me on sketchbooks. So I'll leave it at that. And yeah, I miss it. I miss teaching. I miss that part of teaching, just seeing people growing. I think maybe that's why I'm doing this, because I just really, I miss the teaching engagement. But anyway, obviously not pretty, but you get the basic idea. But anyway, guys, I appreciate you guys joining me for this. Like I said, I plan to do more of these, and I'm going to start, this is kind of like my step-by-step, just to kind of hopefully help you guys move along the way. And just kind of build your confidence. But we're going to start from ground zero and then up. So what I'll suggest for you to do is just go ahead, go somewhere. I don't care if it's like a little El Cheapo notebook that with the lines, and just use this. You need to have any fancy art supplies or printer paper, and then start grabbing items around your house and then start breaking it down. And try to see, once you break it down, try to see if you can replicate it, and then start building your way up from there. So that's gonna be if you wanna follow along your assignment. I would suggest to do, I don't know, 10 pages. I know it seems like a lot, 10 pages. And you want to do one item per page. And you're going to draw that same item minimum of 5 times. So if you're doing a mechanical pencil, I want to see a mechanical pencil from this angle, that angle, that angle, that angle. Like I said, start with basic shapes. And if you just are only drawing the same angle, because let's be honest, some of these items only got like 2 or 3 angles, that's fine. As you are drawing this item multiple times, you are building your mental library of what this item looks like. And that is the point. That is the point that I want you guys to start building that mental library, because it is true, as an artist, you start building from mental, what do you say? You start building from reference first. Every good artist will tell you always have references. Even the best talented Disney animators and the classical masters always use references. So start from references, build your mental library, build your mental knowledge, and then go from there. But anyway, guys, I appreciate it. If you like this, go ahead and hit subscribe below. I welcome any feedback to improve this in the future, and I hope to see you guys soon. Cheers.